in the Middle Ages. During the next 1,000 years, the church built larger and larger buildings. The building was divided into two areas, chancel and nave. The pastor led the worship in the front of the area called chancel or sanctuary. In the front was a large stone altar with a fancy carved backdrop called reredos. The church in Europe also had a third area for the choir, separated with a curtain. When they sang at the worship service, the pulpit was set high in the area called the nave. The people entered the nave through the west door and walked past a baptismal font, remembering that with baptism they had entered the Christian congregation. The people worshipped while standing or sitting on the floor, their thinking centered on stained glass, windows, or artwork. Most people couldn't understand the Latin language for worship. By the 13th century, they almost never received the Lord's Supper. Near the end of this time, the church developed big, beautiful Gothic cathedrals, very large buildings. In the shape of a cross. Very famous artists like Michelangelo did the artwork on the walls and ceilings. Reformation. 500 years ago, one very important event touched the Christian church, the Reformation. Martin Luther and other church leaders began changes in both church life and culture to help people worship God and give them responsibility. To live their faith. For Martin Luther, the most important center for the church is God's Word. Meaning Jesus Christ himself. Martin Luther changed the language of worship from Latin to the people's language. He translated the Bible into their language. He wrote hymns for people themselves to sing, not only a small group singing worship in an unknown language. Martin Luther encouraged the Lord's Supper, attendance often. Lutherans used the same old church buildings, making the altar freestanding, keeping the beautiful artwork and symbols, but bringing the pulpit close to the people for them to hear and see the preacher. The leaders of other church groups removed everything and designed very simple churches, empty except for the pulpit and baptism font. They had no altar, no art, and no organ.